All right, so what it do? Welcome to another one for Al Cuerpo Boxing, which means to the body. So let's get with it. Let's talk some boxing. Damn, I just did like a 1 hour recording beforehand in Spanish, which is actually pretty good, man. I was impressed with some of my delivery, but man, Spanish is still very hard to endure. That's why you got to practice it, man. You don't practice it throughout the years, you're gonna skip a beat and not be as chiseled out as once upon a time and like in my youth. But anyways, if you guys know Spanish, go and check that one out. I'm gonna try and piggyback that one with this one because obviously this one's more of my native, homebrewed language, English. So let's go ahead and talk about. Let's first talk about what's going on with Teofimo Lopez because I wanted to talk about Munguia. What's going on with Jaime Munguia and the Reynoso camp scandal, and what's to come with Canelo versus Crawford, because Canelo versus Crawford is a bit married to the Jaime Munguia situation, and I'll explain in detail why. And you guys will like it too, man. But first and foremost, let's talk about this whole Teofimo Lopez bit, man, because I haven't really uploaded anything as of late. And one thing that I did want to upload was to talk about what's going on with Teofimo Lopez. All right. So let me first start off in saying that I never liked the idea that it was Naoya Inoue, right? The top rank Japanese star is the pound for pound image boxer that saved that weekend of boxing, right? That was the narrative, that he saved it. When in reality, guys, first of all, Inoue was not repping Times Square, New York. Even though many think it was a stupid idea, whatever, man. The Arabs did it. It's historic. And unfortunately, it was a dud. Aside from Teofimo Lopez's performance, Teofimo Lopez showed up. Show some respect to that. Okay? Maybe I'm feeling a bit salty. Not so much, man, but I wanted Jose Ramirez to hopefully dethrone Devin Haney's style. And why? There's an important context to that because I'm waiting for, and for me, the biggest fight so far is really Cepeda versus Shakur Stevenson. That's a very hard task. Maybe even Crawford versus Canelo, but more so because of accolades and what we've seen from all these names combined. Cepeda has the hardest task. The most difficult task is Cepeda, style-wise, right? And so therefore, for me, it's going back to Teofimo Lopez. I think Teofimo Lopez is in a situation where he feels, because he did his part for Riyadh season, he did his part for Times Square, New York, he deserves a higher pay grade than most likely what he's being offered for Devin Haney. And I can see how some fans are kind of like twisting the facts around, right? Trying to detract from what's really going on. But look, guys, obviously we know Devin Haney, the Haneys, they need Teofimo Lopez. What other fight are they going to get if it's not Lopez, right? What other big bag are they going to get if it's not Teofimo Lopez? So it's understandable that Devin Haney and his team, they're going to accept whatever they're going to be given for a fight with Lopez because it's better than any other fight. So obviously they don't mind taking a pay cut, right? Aside from the performance that the Haneys knew on how they performed with Jose Ramirez. Now, again, that's all subjective and who you want to side on. But again, guys, it's a shame that Teofimo Lopez. Actually, you know what? Probox. Some of the guys at Probox, like Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi, maybe even like Timothy Bradley. I'm more than sure they did acknowledge. I'm more than sure I heard it in their video recaps that they gave a lot of credit to Teofimo Lopez. And then it's unfortunate again that Lopez was like the third fight to the main event, right? What's up with that? So you got all these variables, all these circumstances, and that's probably affecting Lopez's team, his managers. Teofimo Lopez deserves the right, the benefit of doubt, to ask for more. He literally has the right to ask for more because his ass showed up on Times Square. Who else is gonna disagree with that? It's not about, oh no, well, aside from all that, Lopez gotta see Haney. No, 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 no. First of all, guys, the Haney's gotta see Lopez. Doesn't matter if Lopez lost to Kambosos and Devin Haney beat Kambosos twice, right? Nah, man. Lopez beat Lomachenko first. Lopez fought Sander Martin. Devin Haney was supposed to fight Sander Martin. So all those things they single out, right? They cancel each other out. So we go therefore on the last circumstance. What's the last circumstance, guys? Was Times Square. Who performed better? Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez showed up more than anybody on that event. Realistically, on paper, should have been Teofimo Lopez, should have been the main event, right? It's not Lopez's fault that they can't do Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney anymore. How is that Lopez's fault? So Teofimo Lopez gets a pass, guys. I don't care about the stuff that goes outside of the ring and all the, as Jamal Charlo recently said, hey, man, everybody's racist. He even says racist stuff, right? If we want to say what Teofimo Lopez said was racist. Whatever, all that shit cancels out, guys. Boxing is a meritocracy. I'm always telling you guys this. Boxing is a meritocracy. Everything in life, when you work hard for something, everything is a meritocracy. All right? And what we're talking about pay grades. So hopefully Teofimo Lopez gets what he wants, guys. Worst case scenario, Lopez bends over and he just goes with whatever he's going to be given. In particular for the Devin Haney fight, right? And it's unfortunate he couldn't get the Boots fight. Nobody has a problem with Crawford facing Canelo, but people have a problem with Lopez saying he wants Boots Ennis. Right? Believe me, if Boots Ennis and Teofimo, if they were given a nice bag for that fight, Boots would take that in a heartbeat. But at the moment, that's not what's being presented to them. And it's sad that Teofimo Lopez represents the ring belt with at least 3 defenses so far. Devin Haney doesn't represent the ring belt. Now, guys, don't get me wrong. I'm not so much of a Devin Haney hater. It's more about meritocracy, man. Don't I have the right to want Lopez to fight Boots? Why? Because Crawford's going to fight Canelo, right? Daring to be great, moving up. That's the circumstance, guys. That's the standard right now. Okay? So, of course, I'm going to be biased towards Teofimo Lopez. Obviously, I'm going to be against the Devin Haney fight. But whatever. If it happens, make it happen. Whatever. That fight's better than nothing. But that's that with Teofimo Lopez right now, if you guys get it. Moving on, man. Now let's talk about, damn. Let me pump up some energy here, man. Because now we're going to talk about what's going on with anti-doping in boxing, man. And if you guys know me, I've always said this, man. Boxing is not innocent. There's a lot of contradictions, right? There's a paradox in boxing right now. There's conflicts of interest. Guys, man, and it's not a knock on Victor Conte, man. Not so much. It's funny to expose it because it's the reality of the game, guys. But Victor Conte, guys, he is a conflict of interest in the sport of boxing, guys. He's one of the, if I'm not mistaken, one of the founding consultants for VADA. I even heard that my guy Carl, from Australia, shout out to Carl, he even said that Conte's part of the board. He's part of some committee of VADA. And I probably believe it. Maybe he's his role is a consultant for that board. But regardless, that's still a damn conflict of interest, guys, man. How do you guys not see that? So anyways, I actually like the news from Munguia. You know why? Because I'm going to flip it towards all you haters of the Reynoso camp. And we'll go into the Reynoso camp in detail. But you know why I'm down for this? Since everybody is fine with Snack, then I'm fine with whatever's going on with Munguia. You know why, though? Because the precursor, the foreshadowing is we're getting Canelo versus Crawford in September. There's a lot of details. There's a lot of things that are going to reveal what's going on with Munguia because of this fight. Sorry if I sound confused myself, but I'm trying to connect all the dots for you guys. in layman's terms, hopefully. But guys, we're on a collision course in September for Victor Conte versus Eddie Reynoso. Literally, man, that's what we're starting right now, right? Canelo's going to fight Crawford. What are some fans going to say that are anti-Canelo in this fight? Oh, no, well, Canelo's juiced up because of Munguia, right? That's fine if you want to play that game. But what does that mean with Crawford and Victor Conte? I kid you not, there's going to be a lot of, I wouldn't say whistleblowing, but a lot of uh, relevance, right? That's going to lead up to September. And it's probably a good thing that the thing with Munguia happened, all right? I know it sounds bad. Maybe some of you think that I'm down for cheating, but no, that's because a lot of you dumbasses still don't get that snack itself is a conflict of interest, guys. What was the reason why Floyd never wanted VADA? Just think about it for a second. For those of you that got it like this, props to you, man. But for those that are still thinking about it, like, why did Floyd not want VADA? Was it because Floyd and Heyman didn't trust Victor Conte? Was it because Margaret Goodman and VADA, they were pretty much pushed by HBO? HBO were the ones that helped create VADA. If I'm not mistaken, VADA was pushed by HBO in the early years, right? It was an HBO program that HBO wanted to push for clean boxing, to clean boxing. Okay, again, guys, conflicts of interest, right? There was a narrative that HBO was always against Floyd, right? Floyd was always like telling to Harold Letterman, right? Was it Harold Letterman or Larry Merchant? Um, no, it was Larry Merchant. Sorry, Larry Merchant. Right? So Larry Merchant was pro HBO. Fans had pro Larry Merchant, whatever, man. So the point is that there was a genuine insecurity from the Mayweathers, from the Mayweather camp, a genuine insecurity from Al Heyman. So how did they assure that they felt comfortable with major events? Floyd would usually work with USADA, or who knows how it was, but I'm more than sure Floyd just wasn't down with VADA, especially in the Pac origins, or even like the late Pac fight, right? Because Mayweather versus Pacquiao was more pro USADA. That's what it was, guys. It was so apparent, and it was a conflict of interest, right? We're talking about conflicts of interest with VADA and USADA, that even like guys like Thomas Hauser had to do a hit piece on USADA. But hopefully you guys are getting the point here, okay? So the point is, who do we trust with the agencies? Floyd didn't trust VADA. For those fans that are pro Floyd and believe Heyman and Floyd to not trust VADA, then why should other fans of different stars trust VADA, right? Think about that for a second, okay? And again, I mentioned this before, that Rigondeaux versus Donaire. That fight in particular, guys, was very unique because that was USADA and VADA used, two agencies. That was actually pretty good. That's what Canelo and Crawford should do. You know why, guys? You know why? Because fans would be naive to think that both USADA and VADA would have the exact same results. It's impossible, guys. There's going to be margins of error. The worst case scenario is that VADA's results and USADA's results, or any other agency, are completely different, man. We're talking about levels higher than others, or substances presented in different reports, different agencies. Do you guys see how bad that is for the transparency of boxing, or I guess in sports in general? It's bad, guys. It's very bad. But at the very least, what would we call as innocent, or to say that anti-doping is a joke in sports? Let me repeat that anti-doping is a joke in sports, that there would be significant margins of error from two agencies. And that's why Canelo and Crawford should push for two agencies to do their fight. Because then we'll know if one agency sides with the other, you know? For example, one agency reveals abnormal levels or a banned substance from Crawford, and then VADA reports substances or levels differently with Canelo. Imagine that, guys. If that were to happen, all of you guys would be like, "Oh shit, man! What the hell is going on, man? maybe Cuerpo or others are right that there is an unfortunate conflict of interest because Victor Conte is there to begin with. Okay? It's bad, man. I mean, I don't really want to throw too much shade at Victor Conte, but am I wrong? I mean, so it is. Let's go back to Jaime Munguia and the Reynoso camp stuff, guys. Where do we begin with this one? First of all, I don't give Munguia a pass, man, because one, out of all the Reynoso scandals to begin with, there hasn't been a scandal about high levels of testosterone, particularly exogenous levels of testosterone, meaning that it's not pure testosterone that the body's producing, right? It's coming from an external source, hence exogenous, right? Therefore, we can assume steroids or anabolic steroids. It is what it is, guys, right? We're waiting for the B sample. Perhaps we're waiting for particular banned substances to be said. But the big question right now, guys, is do we blame Munguia direct or do we blame Reynoso or the theory of who is supplying who? And more so, isn't Reynoso responsible because he's the head trainer? I would say yes. Unfortunately, yes. This is the first instance that's the worst for Eddie Reynoso. Because the other ones I'll go into detail that don't really have a lot of weight, technically on paper, guys. Because a lot of fans don't really look at the research, but if you're a fan of Olympic sport and you can comprehend some basic logic from what's on a banned list or what WADA says, WADA, not VADA, WADA, right? At Olympic level, then you're going to come to conclusion that there's a lot of bullshit going on in boxing. But first and foremost, man, look, at the end of the day, high levels of testosterone, unfortunately, Reynoso is at fault too because he's the trainer. Why do I say this, guys? Because let's move on to another guy. Ryan Garcia. Right now, a lot of channels, a lot of fans, I don't know if they're anti-Ryan Garcia or they're anti-Canelo or anti-Reynoso, anti-Mexican boxing, but guys, Ryan Garcia, if we want to go on paper, technically on paper, Ryan Garcia and Eddie Reynoso have nothing to do with each other when it came to Ryan Garcia's positive results for Osterine. Guys, that was Derek James. So if I want to point the finger at Derek James, then obviously I have to point the finger at Reynoso with Munguia. Or I was mistaken before. I had said that Joe Goosen was the guy with Ryan Garcia for the Haney fight. No, that was not that. That was the fight previous. I believe that was with maybe Duarte or a fight after that. I forgot, man. But the point is Derek James. Ryan Garcia failed with Osterine under Derek James, guys. That's it. It's nothing to do with Eddie Reynoso. So forget Ryan Garcia with association with Eddie Reynoso. And if you guys want to continue trolling about association again, then why are you guys hitting if I have association with fighters with Victor Conte and Snack? Again, guys, the conflict of interest, the paradox in boxing. So calm down, man. If you want to use the concept of association, then you can't hate on boxing fans that are critical about the Snack program. It's it's that finite and logical when you want to make points, right? So let's get Ryan Garcia out of the picture, man. That dude was Derek James. It has nothing to do with Eddie Reynoso. Now let's move on to, let's say, Luis Neri. Luis Neri, again, association with Reynoso because he joined Reynoso after failing a doping scandal in Japan back in the day. That was before Eddie Reynoso, years prior. But fans like to say, oh, well, Luis Neri went with Reynoso. So, I mean, guys fumble the timestamps, okay? One could say, well, Reynoso maybe should have never accepted Luis Neri because Luis Neri failed a doping test that had nothing to do with him, right? If we want to go that angle. I could accept that. Maybe, yeah, maybe Reynoso was a bit irresponsible. Let me repeat that. Maybe Eddie Reynoso was a bit irresponsible in working with Luis Neri because Luis Neri had failed some doping tests prior to working with him, right? So that's Luis Neri. But Luis Neri, because of association, fans like to use Luis Neri and Eddie Reynoso. Let's move on to another guy. Oscar Valdez, who before I believe it was a diuretic, but I was corrected in that it was some stimulant stimulant, right? At the end of the day, guys, at the end of the day, Oscar Valdez was cleared to fight. I believe it was against Conceição, right? Brazilian guy. Guys, he was cleared to fight, and he was at no fault. Let me repeat that, guys. The commission, the WBC, whatever, man. The final result is that Oscar Valdez was not penalized and he was not suspended because, as we say in technical terms, he was not at fault. So somehow they proved that it was because of contamination. If you want to point fingers and cry about Oscar Valdez, you cry at the guys that approved the fight. Approved the fight at no fault. Right? Or you can even blame Conceição because Conceição accepted the fight. I don't know if they knew before, if they knew after, whatever. Oscar Valdez was cleared. Let me repeat that. Oscar Valdez was cleared. There's no if or buts. Just like Dillian White was cleared for, I forgot what banned substance, if it was even worse than a stimulant, but Dillian White was cleared to fight Oscar Rivas. That fight was on the line, right? Eddie Hearn said it was cool. Eddie Hearn said UCAD and VADA have their own dramas. I mean, that's funny, right? A promoter saying that the agencies have a drama or inconsistency with how to do anti-doping or whatever. What's out of competition. As a matter of fact, out of competition, in competition was for Oscar Valdez. Maybe that's why he was cleared. Whatever. At no fault. So far we covered Luis Neri, whose time step was previous Reynoso, okay, but association, they like to bring in Reynoso. Oscar Valdez, at no fault, cleared, all right. Ryan Garcia was with Derek James, had nothing to do with Eddie Reynoso. Fans were even trolling Ryan Garcia that he didn't deserve to be Reynoso, but somehow fans like to marry that back together, but whatever, we control that. Now let's go back to Canelo Alvarez, man. The classic and legendary, let's call it a myth, man, at this point. This is really a myth. Technically, it's a myth. You know why? Because there's a paradox right now with the clenbuterol. So check it out, guys. And this will go with Ray Martinez in a bit. It's the same banned substance. Beforehand. Before entering Reynoso. Guys, the levels of what is now accepted for clenbuterol means that Canelo, in theory, was at no fault. It's not Canelo's fault that WADA, the Olympic world, that Olympics don't just do boxing, guys. The Olympics have been covering various sports for centuries, right? Or for about more than a century. The Olympics. Boxing is not exclusive, or I should say the Olympics is not exclusive to boxing, right? Vice versa. So fans like to troll and say, well, Mauricio changed the rules or the levels of clenbuterol. Guys, man, boxing didn't change any rules for clenbuterol. The Olympic Committee changed the rules for clenbuterol. That means a sprinter, an archer, a wrestler, a taekwondo combatant, a swimmer could take advantage of clenbuterol because the Olympic committee raised the level. If you guys want to troll the idea that, oh yeah, Canelo was the reason why the Olympics changed it, hey man, props to Canelo. Damn, I didn't know he was that big of the game. I didn't know the Olympics could benefit from Canelo to affect all the other sports. That don't make sense, guys. It's not because of boxing. It's not because of WBC. It's not because of Canelo that the Olympic Committee and WADA changed their levels of clenbuterol. I'll let you guys decide why they changed the levels, because obviously there was always a narrative about Mexico and meat contamination, right? You guys can research and do your homework and make a story, make a documentary on that shit. I don't care. But at the end of the day, it was not Canelo that changed the levels of clenbuterol for the Olympic Committee. That don't make no damn sense, man. But hey, man, if the levels are now higher, hey, man, props to anybody who wants to use the levels. That's not to the combatants or the athlete's fault, man. You want to hate on me for saying that? Hey, I don't make the rules. You go and point your fingers at WADA and the Olympic Committee, okay? So that's Canelo. So Canelo, whatever, man. His levels were below. He served the ban. That's old news. But since we're talking about Canelo, we're talking about clenbuterol. Let's go back to Ray Martinez. Ray Martinez, who was going to fight Ray Vargas back in the day, right? This is back in 2019. Guys, these two cats, Ray Vargas and Ray Martinez were cleared to fight because of proven contamination with clenbuterol. A year after the water committee raised the levels, right? They raised it in 2018. They changed the rules for clenbuterol, and in 2019, Ray Martinez and Ray Vargas had some sort of scandal with clenbuterol. But guys, they were cleared. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Or don't hate the game, hate the guys that make the rules. WADA and the Olympic Committee, right? They changed the clenbuterol levels. Suleiman, the WBC, the commissions, they all said, you know what? Okay, fine. If we're being consulted and they're justifying it, then okay, then they're cleared. And that's what happened, guys. But one thing I will cite that I was incorrect back last year, and Eddie Reynoso is at fault with this because he was the trainer of Ray Martinez. Now, this was for a diuretic. This was not clenbuterol, but at the end of the day, Eddie Reynoso was still the trainer of Ray Martinez. This was for a diuretic that he failed, and he did have to serve a ban. So far, that's technically, I guess we could say two. Let's include Canelo. Okay, Canelo, Ray Martinez. So far, that's two. But remember, Canelo, because of new clen levels, I like to say it's a gray area. But let's include Canelo. Let's entertain that idea with clenbuterol. Even though clenbuterol is now waived with the levels that Canelo had and other fighters, but let's entertain the idea. So far, we got Canelo and Ray Martinez, right? One for clenbuterol and one for the diuretics, okay? Because Ray Martinez, even before Reynoso, no, I'm not even sure if it was Reynoso, but at the end of the day, clenbuterol is waived. So now let's jump to Munguia, guys, which will be the third. All right. So we already talked about Ryan Garcia, Oscar Valdez, right? Different circumstances, good justifications, different justifications, but guys, logical justifications. So now here we go. So we're talking about Jaime Munguia. There's no excuse for high levels of testosterone, especially exogenous levels of testosterone. Somehow the reports can prove that obviously you can see a spike of natural production of testosterone. And we know this because they do have blood samples from previous tests throughout the camp, and they saw, wait a minute, the natural levels of testosterone that Munguia had here and here defer or conflict with the levels of exogenous testosterone, right? So that's where we are right now. And we're still waiting for the B sample. At the end of the day, I'm not giving Eddie Reynoso a pass because he is the trainer, right? He's responsible also for his fighter, for Munguia. Because if we want to say that Ryan Garcia and Derek James, that's separate, and we want to blame it on them, then at the same time we got to be fair and be transparent that Reynoso was also at fault in this situation. So far those are three. I really want to say more too, but let's entertain. We can add Canelo. That's three so far. And so right now the narrative is the suspicion revolving Camp Reynoso, right? And that's fine for me. You know why, guys? You know why, guys? Because for fans that don't want to acknowledge Snack as a conflict of interest, then I'm going to troll the idea too with Reynoso. And that's why right now, with what's going on with Canelo versus Crawford, it's a big, mega showdown for September because, guys, comically, it's Snack versus Eddie Reynoso, right? It's an even playing field, man. So who are fans going to side with? The ex-kingpin of Balco or the new modern Eddie Reynoso? Keep in mind that Snack is still in the game. Snack is already a conflict of interest. So who has more weight, right? On the scale. Who's fatter, right? Who weighs more? Reynoso or Conte's world? Jokes aside, man. I think right now there's a paradox going on. If you want to point fingers at Canelo with Crawford, guys, man, there's already been a recurring theme with Crawford because he's with Snack throughout the years. That was already a theme. That's even before the whole Munguia thing came about. So now that we know this right now that Crawford versus Canelo is a very comical sale because of anti-doping and boxing, I'm with it. I'm down for it, right? Given all the circumstances and illogical things that are happening in boxing because of the conflicts of interest, right? Well, then check it out. I think there's some there's some safe proof Or I should say, I don't mind people theorizing that maybe it's a witch hunt against Reynoso, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you guys why. We know that Oscar de la Hoya for the last 2 years has been stabbing, has doing probes at Canelo, saying that Canelo was a cheater. Keep in mind that Oscar before was defending Canelo, that he wasn't the cheater, that he was innocent, right? Two conflicting, proven scenarios that Oscar has given to the public. It's proven, guys. He sided with Canelo once, now he's siding against Canelo, right? These are proven situation, guys. So what am I getting at? Who was with Oscar previously, before the co-promotional deal of Top Rank, right? Who sided with Canelo recently in the camp that goes against Oscar's trolling themes on Canelo? Who's the guy, who's the fighter associated with Golden Boy Promotions or Golden Boy co-promo with Taproom? Who is it, guys? It's Jaime Munguia. So Jaime Munguia, when he was fighting Canelo Alvarez, in that presser, in those times, Canelo was telling the public that Oscar was bad for boxing because Oscar was taking too much money from Munguia. He was insinuating to Munguia, yo, you gotta leave Golden Boy Promotions. They're doing you wrong. And guess what? What happens afterward, guys? Munguia sides with Canelo. Guys, don't you see the politics going on? How do you think that rubs on to Oscar? That Munguia's own guy, that Oscar's own guy, Munguia, is siding against his enemy. How do you think Oscar's interpreting that? Oscar's got pull in the game, and Oscar's had pull throughout the years. He still does. All right? So how do we prep up right now? How do we make Canelo versus Crawford doubtful with the Western world going against the Saudis? How do we do that? How do we pinch the Saudis right now with this mega fight between Snack versus Reynoso? How do we pinch that? How do we make fun of it? Right? Maybe we disclose a positive finding with Jaime Munguia. Something in the world that Victor Conte and Oscar's been doing for years, guys. For those of you that think that it's not possible, guys, Francisco Vargas, Danny Garcia, Eric Morales, they all have a similar theme once upon a time. And these are all Golden Boy Promotion fighters. Clenbuterol, guys. Victor Conte defending Francisco El Banito Vargas, who was once a Snack fighter. Victor Conte said that once upon a time not once upon a time, in the camp leading up to his fight with Orlando Salido, that this is Victor Conte stating this. I'm paraphrasing, but Victor Conte said that his Snack fighter, Francisco Vargas, went to Mexico, had a beef stew that his mom made, and that was the reason why Francisco Vargas had findings of clenbuterol. And keep in mind, guys, Victor Conte was defending the idea that it was meat contamination, guys. Are you guys getting me? Victor Conte was defending clenbuterol. The California State Commission were siding with the consultation from VADA, guys. Let me repeat this. There's a report out there. It's either from Lance Pugmire or Dan Raphael. I kid you guys not. I don't lie, man. Trust me, man. You guys will concede in what I'm saying to you for future stuff. The California State Athletic Commission said that what they were being consulted, and this is obviously from VADA because VADA were overseeing the results, guys. It's not a separate entity. Who would consult the commission? The commission literally stated that they were told that the levels that Francisco Vargas had no benefit, that there was somewhat of an innocence, that the fight against Orlando Salido was okay, meaning that we shouldn't worry about Orlando Salido's health should something happen. They didn't say it so much like that, but think of it that way. Why else would you justify it? Why would a commission justify it? Why would Oscar de la Hoya justify it? Why would Victor Conte justify it? Why would VADA justify it? Why the hell would they all justify clenbuterol, guys? In a time where clenbuterol was never accepted. This is before Canelo's time. Right? Eric Morales. Unfortunately, he was the one that had to serve a ban for clenbuterol. Who knows what the levels were for that, man? But they were too much. I remember that. But guess what, guys? Danny Garcia didn't sue. Danny Garcia didn't complain. The Garcia family, they said, you know what? Probably our boy Eric, we'll give him a pass. He's trying to make weight the second time. He's trying to make weight. We'll let it pass. And they took the fight. And then after, and guys, everybody knew about this, man. Industry knew about it. And industry, we somewhat trusted what Garcia's point of view, and we trusted the levels at the time. Otherwise, there would have been protests. If that happened today, fans would be like, wait a minute, why is there still Eric Morales versus Danny Garcia? Why is the fight still happening? Well, Dylan White versus Oscar Rivas happened, right? You guys are getting it. All these inconsistencies happening in boxing. So anyways, back to the point. The conflicts of interest, meaning Victor Conte and Vara, and even promoters, why are they justifying substances or failed tests, if it's called like that? Why are they justifying failed tests as if nothing was wrong? So back to the main point. If Victor Conte was protecting a snack fighter, Francisco Vargas, with clenbuterol, as a matter of fact, even Victor Conte was defending Canelo when Canelo had his things because he had to. If he was justifying Vargas, he knows he has to defend Canelo if that's the theme. There's no other way, right? He even cited contamination. So it was kind of like Victor Conte was put in a corner. And hopefully, when you're in that position, when you're representing Snack and you're Victor Conte, you kind of have to you have to hope that fans don't really focus on those details, really, realistically. But we go by testimony. We go by what's being said by the big players. Again, by the conflicts of interest. Victor Conte. So back to Canelo versus Crawford. If Victor Conte was justifying a snack fighter, Francisco Vargas, with clenbuterol, can we really trust his fighter, Crawford? I'm not saying Crawford is going to cheat, by the way. I'm not even saying that just yet. I'm saying, how could you trust Canelo's samples being held with the conflict of interest with Victor Conte? Don't you think Victor Conte wants to protect the snack fighter's image, Crawford against Canelo? Don't you think so? Don't you think in the dark side of things, like Oscar affiliates, who knows, the brown paper bags, don't you think they would love to make Canelo the public enemy? Don't you think they would love Canelo to have another doping scandal leading up to this fight because of Munguia's recent circumstances? I don't think it's a coincidence, guys, that Munguia failed the test for what's going on right now with the West versus the East, with Saudis versus the USA. I think fans right now are loving that, and they know the fans are loving that. Guess what? Karma's a bitch, man. If you wanna fuel the flame, well then guess what? That's why I'm down for Reynoso versus Snack. That's what it comes down to in September. But one thing I will say is that the Canelo's team better wise up, man. You guys better have some really good strategic planning to protect your collections, man, your blood collections, man. I recommend Team Canelo, you guys gotta hire USADA. Why USADA? Because then we'll know what Vada's doing and what USADA's doing. Can you imagine the scandal would be if USADA and Vada have different findings from both athletes? Industry will be in shock, man. It'll be in shock because then we will be forced to side with the boxing faces, right? The boxing guys, which would be Victor Conte, because Vada is more exclusively to boxing. Whereas, what would be the transparency and objectivity to side towards USADA? USADA's not just Mayweather. USADA's been around in the game too. So you guys see all these contradictory situations going on, the paradox in boxing. And I always say boxing is not innocent. Do we really care? Nobody's doing 365. My good friend Fight Sport, he made a good he gave a good circumstance, a good fact in a previous live stream. He brought up Big Baby Miller. Big Baby Miller, man, who in one upcoming fight or leading up to one of his fights, he had HGH, EPO, and some other anabolic steroid or diet. I don't know what he had, but he had 3 banned substances, guys. Maybe in a situation like that, that's where we could say, okay, nah, man, we gotta have a halt, man, because that could really affect the health of his opponent. I mean, both guys, it's combat sports, right? But if we're trying to be fair, then obviously we have to kind of throw more heat towards the one that has multiple uh, 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 adverse findings, right? Which would be Big Baby Miller. But shout out to Fight Sport for saying that, because that's a really good example of something really bad with failed tests. Really, I mean, literally, it is. I shouldn't. I mean, literally, realistically, it's the worst case scenario with doping scandals. Okay. Actually, the worst case scenario would be if a fighter died and another guy failed the test, and they let that fight go on. That would be the worst case scenario in a doping scandal. And unfortunately, something in boxing, right? That would be a worst case scenario. But shout out to Fight Sport for having that example with Big Baby Miller. So, anyways, that's what's going on right now regarding Teofimo Lopez and what's going on with Jaime Munguia. Guys, don't get it twisted, man. I'm not justifying cheating in the game, man. I want you guys to recognize and acknowledge the conflict of interest already at bat in boxing. Don't go crying at one crew or one camp because of associations that have no relevance to Munguia, unless you want to say that the denominator is Reynoso, right? But again, nobody cared about Derek James. Where was all the heat on Derek James? Wasn't Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney big as far as statistics and noise about in boxing? Wasn't Ryan Garcia big? All right. But how much did we really talk about Derek James, guys? How much did Bill Haney attack Derek James? Nobody really said much. So with that being said, man, when nobody's 100 or consistent with the as they say, keeping the amount of energy or the same energy on a topic, nobody's really 100. We just like to gossip about stuff. I don't like to gossip. Nobody's doing 365, so don't make a big deal about shit about anti-doping, really. Okay. So, anyways, that's what I have it on this one, man. Shout out to Canelo and Crawford. It's gonna be Reynoso versus Snack in September. It's gonna be great. We'll see what fans want to protect who or who wants to justify what. But I'll catch you guys on the next one for Al Cuerpo Boxing, which means to the body. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.